This week on RSBANDB Update, community hit list updates arrive for the loot system, player-owned farm perks, and fire spirits. The Necromancy XP embargo is up early, and we share our gains. Finally, the combat beta was updated with a release build, and it's time to check it out if you already haven't. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 970, recorded Thursday, January 25th, 2024. Beta Breeders. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of RSBANDB Update Community Hit List. I'm betting part 3 because this is the third batch of community hit list updates that we're seeing, isn't it, Tanis?
Right, hit them up.
Yeah. I know there's definitely people out there who would like to see things, kind of lined up and shot down, firing squad line. I don't know if this is the podcast to talk about that in terms of, making it so that, we can kind of get all the ducks in a row to what 2024 is going to look like. But maybe at some point in the future, we'll talk about what 2024 is going to look like. But of course, welcome everybody to RSBANDB Update. This week, we're going to be discussing the community hit list, some combat beta changes, and, as it is the RS3 show, we do have a new treasure hunter mechanic to discuss and, as people might say, actually enjoy. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in like we're jumping into an empty pool.
A pool of piranhas?
No, a pool with nothing, dude. Just the bottom. Just pow.
Yeah, but before we do that, I want to thank our experienced tier Patreon supporters for allowing us to do what we do here each and every week on the podcast. I'd like to thank Amos Reed, Andrew C., Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, and the Naked Captain. Big, huge thank you to all these guys. You'll learn more about the Patreon offerings available a little bit later in the podcast. But in the meantime, full show notes can be found at update.show. We also have a community Discord at update.show/Discord, and the friends chat is at BitsBytes. You can find me in game at Shane12088. Tanis can be found at Tanis79. And, of course, brief reminder, though you might have already heard it in the pre-roll survey, our annual general survey. Please do complete that if you have not. Update.show/survey. 3 of the lucky people who complete the survey will have the chance to win a bond for completing it. We've already got some good responses, so thank you to everybody who's already filled it out. But as they say, the more the merrier. Update.show/survey. All right, community hit list. These community hit list updates always deliver, and they're basically seen as, the modern day Ninja Strike patch notes that the players want and crave. So starting off, herb and gem bags will now accept noted items.
This was one, so I didn't have a ton that stood out to me. This was one of them that did.
Okay.
I thought this was really good.
I assume this is, I've never actually used these on task.
Oh, really?
Or anywhere, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's the use case for these?
Well, for me, it's a drop clear. It's a inventory management. It's when my pet picks them up, I can drop it in the bag.
Okay.
A way to,
so basically, just a way to expand the inventory when out doing a task or something to that effect. Then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. And, I guess that makes sense because in some tasks and whatnot would drop noted herbs, noted gems, and whatnot, then you couldn't put them in before. Here's one I saw a lot of people jumping up and down about, especially on social media. The information box that appears above the players to display feedback can now be moved using the edit mode. And what this is referring to is this is kind of like the box that appears when you get a level up notification, like when you get, say, 99 in a skill or you complete an achievement, that would previously appear below the XP orbs, but now you can move this freely in edit mode. And it never really thought to me or occurred to me that this might be something you would need to move, but lo and behold, there we are.
There you go. I was trying to figure out just exactly what information it was, but
Yeah, it's hard to
um,
describe, but it's basically the box that appears like when you complete an achievement.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
When a monster dies, its options are now hidden during the death animation, so you can more easily pick up the loot that the NPC has dropped.
That's a good. I mean, there's another even better loot change, I
Yeah,
think,
I saw
coming.
that. I
But
think I know which
yeah,
one you're talking about. We'll get there. You can now disable dragging of items in your backpack by using the new padlock button at the bottom of your inventory. All right. Nothing I ever wanted to do, but sure.
yeah. I still wonder, like, who messes this up, or I mean, I don't know. Do you get like something sticky on your finger or something playing mobile, and you're like, oh shit, I dropped it. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know.
get it.
Also, the same general area, hovering over the invention button on the backpack, and will now show, and the charge pack will now display your remaining charge time and drain rate. So you don't need to
Yeah,
go in and check a weapon to show it.
yeah, I do like that. Because I am notorious for like on the rare occasions where I'm like, okay, I'll do some combat, just sitting there and be like, why am I getting just the shit knocked out of me? I don't what is
No
going
power.
on? And I have no, yeah, I was like, yeah. So that one's nice.
The health runes in Zamorak Solo Phase 7 have been halved, and the dev note on this says it's to reduce the difficulty between solo and group play, and the mechanic was meant to be memory-based and missable if not enough attention was paid, so we elected for having the health rather than reducing the rune count further. Fair enough, people have been asking for this since week 1, I think, of Zamorak. Also added a wiki button on the top right of the quest overview journal interface, and clicking it will open the quick guide for the selected quest. That's big, I think.
Oh man, look how far we have come from the days of quest help, and you would get what, 3 points a day, and you'd only get you got hint. You probably don't even remember
Oh,
what
I
I'm
remember
talking
that.
about because
I
okay,
remember
yeah,
that. I remember
yeah,
that. The hints in the journal, and not
yeah.
providing too much information for that. And I mean, if you really want the ultimate in terms of helping, you use the Quest Helper plugin on Old School, which basically tells you what to click and where to go.
Best plugin. Well, I can't say it's the best plugin ever because there's so many good plugins. Speech, text to speech is pretty nice too.
Yeah.
But another really good plugin.
It's almost like there's a show that discusses this. Sirion and I had a good discussion last week on the Old School show about the HD client and what they're doing with that and the official plugins that will actually be coming for that. So update.show/OS for the most recent episode of that. Player-owned farm name and trait rerollers can no longer reroll the current name and trait in the selected slot and will reopen the roll menu if the player hasn't run out of rerollers. And yeah, this was actually really, really dumb before, is that if you're trying to go for, the enhanced breeding traits like the sparkling, glistening, and radiant, and sparkling can appear in the different trait slots, and you already had sparkling there was a chance that you could actually reroll to the trait that you had. So that is much appreciated in terms of something that is changed.
I feel bad for whoever that happened to.
Oh, yeah, it happened to me many times, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, because, I didn't actually go out and buy my breeding pairs. I made all my own breeding pairs.
Of course he did.
Yeah. And speaking of breeding, completing the breeding log for a category of animal now passively grants the Tier 1 perk for this animal. So, they say if you have completed the You Had a Zygamite achievement to breed the 5 types of Zygamite, you're now granted the Tier 1 Zygamite perk, Uncapped Potential, without needing a Zygamite in any of your pens, though you'll still require an animal in a pen to get its Tier 2 rank. And this is something that actually threw you for one heading into pre-show here with this.
Yeah, I didn't think that's when I read it, I didn't think that's what it meant, but to have this passively without Yeah, dude.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
it really shows, especially with some of the Anachronia ones, like, for example, the Malatops, increases the duration of barricade by 1.8 seconds, so 3 ticks, and the tier 2 of that increases the duration of barricade by 3.6 seconds. And if you pair that with
Huge.
turtling, that's a huge stack. And that's what, some of us were using in the first week when, for example, Zuck came out. I don't know that, people would still necessarily use that, but it's an option. Another couple of standout ones that I like to use from time to time are the Scimitops one, which increases the chance of finding a geode while mining by 1%. So if you complete the Scimitops breeding list, you're going to have this active all the time now. And that goes up to 2% if you pop an animal into the pen. The Arcane Apiterosaur is also fun. Increases your runes per essence multiplier by 1 while crafting elemental runes. Goes up to 2 if you have an animal in the pen for that. And, there was a time when crafting fire runes and water runes was big bang. So that was used for that. There's also one that increases the duration of Juju potions by 30 seconds when consumed, which, with the extra amount of herb patches that we have right now, can be a life changer, so that you don't need to use a second dose of Juju farming potion, so on and so forth. But those ones come from Anachronia, and there's also ones from the regular Manor Farm. So, it's something that people definitely want to look into. And the only one I'll show off and showcase from the Manor Farm is the cow trait, where all cooking XP earned from churning is at 2 times normal or 4 times normal if you have the tier 2 rank in it. And for people who were going, for a high rank in cooking on Fresh Start Worlds, lo and behold, it turned out to be churning milk.
Oh, dude. It was cream cheese. Yes. Yeah.
And I asked you about this, and yeah, they did that, didn't they?
Yeah,
The
dude,
people
it
that were
was
going
crazy.
for that. So,
yeah.
Definitely something that everybody should be aware of going forward on this. Next up, normalized produce and seed amounts required for farming requests based on produce and seed type, and remove some annoying crops and seeds that it could require, like bloodweed seeds, goutweed tubers, and so on and so forth. Fire spirits will now send rewards directly to the bank or the inventory if your bank is full. Yes.
I mean, could they just send it directly to the floor?
Right. And see, that's the thing. That's why I always ignored them, because it just was not worth the inventory space. At least now it just goes to the damn bank.
Hell, I ain't worth my bank space right now.
Yeah.
It's at a premium.
15-second reminder has been added to incense sticks for when they'll run out in line with potion effects. Black unicorns have been graphically updated, as have black bears and grizzly bears, including their cubs. Check the polar bear at the Ardoin Zoo uses the newer polar bear model. And now Turiel, Spyra, and Jacqueline's novice Slayer Master outfits have been all graphically updated, as well as updating Vinaka the Slayer Master's body and chat head, including his appearance in Beneath Cursed Tides, Tutorial Island, and the NPC contact spell. The magic store owner that sells runes in Yanil's Mages Guild no longer wanders and has trimmed robes to more easily distinguish him. And then added a column for Necronium salvage in the Spring Cleaner interface. Is this the one you were going to talk about?
This actually isn't the one, but this is a good one. Because, yeah, I can't believe it took this long for it.
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah.
There's bosses out there like Raziel and whatnot that do drop Necronium stuff, and just because it would drop it before, I never really took the Spring Cleaner, but now I could just take the Spring Cleaner and cut out the middleman, so to speak, on that.
Yeah, I always have. I mean, anytime I'm doing combat, I will usually always have my Spring Cleaner on me.
Yeah.
No, this is yet to come.
All right. Increase the maximum chat history from 100 to 200 lines, and I bet this is the one. Loot Custom will grab any noted or stackable items from the ground if you already have one in your inventory.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Why?
It's just nice and quick. If you already have it, then all you have to do is click and then space. Boom, boom.
Okay. Right, and so does this... I wonder if this works outside of the filters, because, you can set filters up for custom, right? So if it's outside of, like, the bounds of what you want to pick up, would it still do this? Or would it still be bound by the minimums and whatnot?
Well, I mean, the way it reads, if you have it in your inventory, it should do it.
Yeah, and like I've said before, in terms of doing mass loot operations like this, I don't really do much Slayer, so this really isn't that much of a problem for me. But
yeah, well, I like it.
I can see why this is definitely seen as a good one. And then there was a whole suite of changes about little oddities that have been fixed with last week's graphical update. I'm not going to go through each of them because that's a patch notes segment in itself. But there's definitely a lot of them. So, the load last preset option is now available on banks found in the Dominion Tower, Native's Knot, Darkmire, Lunar Isles, and the Lumbridge Basement. And that's it for patch notes this week. I definitely do think they hit it home with this incarnation of the community hit list.
It was a lot of nice ones. Yeah, I mean, what you expect with these. It's not anything earth shattering, but it's just nice quality of life.
Yeah. And then there's some that you question why, like who wanted, the ability to make it so you can't move a backpack slot, right?
Right, yeah.
So, but overall, yeah, good. Which one's your favorite? The Loot Custom one still? Or
Yeah,
okay.
I still like that Loot Custom one. It's just because, like, sometimes your pet doesn't get everything. Sometimes you have to click on stacks. You have your custom filters and all that, but if you already had one in your inventory, it's going to make it so much quicker.
Sure. For me, it's the farming ones, and if I had to pick one, probably the one in relation to the perks, because it just makes it that much easier to share the love that is farming. Because people might not necessarily be aware that you could have these perks set up, and then you have to kind of, dive in and realize that I'm going to be utilizing, one of my dinosaur pens to have, say, the Melatops perk active, right? Whereas in reality, you might be wanting to use that to farm XP. So that way, then you always got the tier 1 up. And there's a lot out there that are good in the tier 1 candidate. So that's why that one's probably the one that's going to stand out for me most in Community Hit List Part 3 here. I guess the first Community Hit List update of 2024, we could say, instead of Part 3. So. Yeah,
I think that one's hands down the most impactful one. It definitely makes the biggest change. And I'm just looking at, like, just ease of access for me.
Yeah, of course. And you mentioned the legendary pet, which is, something that you always use when you're doing combat and whatnot. So that tracks. But we also do this week have a new form of Treasure Hunter promo. And, weird of us to talk about Treasure Hunter, right? I feel like it gets a lot of hate out there. But I feel like this is a case where we kind of have to commend them again for this. In terms of this, because you're pretty much guaranteed to get the cosmetics after spending a certain amount of keys. And yes, it's a lot of keys, but you're guaranteed to get them because you're given tokens at each stage of the promo that you pass through. And then with that, you're actually able to choose and spend on which outfit that you want. And basically what they have set up is that there's a new conjure override, either the Gull Guardian Zombie or the Soul Reaver Skeleton Warrior. And then with that, there's also a set of armor, a cosmetic set of armor that you're also able to pick up for yourself as well. Which, I mean, we've said it time and time again, right? When it comes to doing Treasure Hunter, people always prefer it to be cosmetic. And I'm wondering what the numbers are going to look like on this promo, in particular, just because this is another one of those promos that's out there that we're seeing a ton of choice brought into, which people have always asked for. So if this one doesn't, necessarily resonate as well as people would have liked, well, then maybe that's the case. We're not going in that direction. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on the cosmetics themselves, right? One thing when it comes to Treasure Hunter for me right now is I'm over the mechanics and figuring out.
Oh God, yeah, this is
this
is a complex. This is a complex promo here. Because you click on one side, you can have it increase your rarity as you progress through that. But if you click on the other side, you can have it increase your multiplier. Yeah. So it's not exactly like the most clear as day promo out there, but at least there's some level of choice to it, which I guess makes it okay from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I guess, yeah. I mean, that is one way you can provide choice, and that's cool. I'm just, there's like a freaking tutorial to get to before you can even try to. That feels
which is like why? Yeah. Like, why are we having a monetization promo that you need a friggin' tutorial for, right?
Yeah, it just feels like we're doing a little too much there.
Okay, fair enough on that perspective. Fair enough on that. But I think the thing I want to, champion with this one, if you can say it in such a way, is that the loot mechanic isn't the worst in the world, in that you're guaranteed to get it if you use a certain amount of keys, and then you have a choice of which ones you get with your limited pool. So
yeah, and I mean that at least you will get what you are going for, that's
right. Like if you, for example, if you wanted only the Soul Reaper's crown top and bottom and the weapon override, then you could just immediately go for that and then be done with it, right? So there's positives and negatives, like you said, with that, and there's also a few other positives and negatives with this, I guess you could say, because I don't know if you noticed this, they increased the amount of daily keys that you can purchase with oddments from 10 to 15. But, and here's the but, base oddments awarded per key are reduced per rarity, and convert oddments volumes are no longer affected by reward multipliers.
Oh, no.
The Christmas promo wants a word, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, that sucks. And I have never traded oddments for keys.
I did that during the Christmas promo. For wrapping paper.
I mean, I'm usually always.
The exact answer with this is that, or the exact thing that, when you read between the lines on this, is that they want it to be more difficult to earn keys in game.
Well, that's fine, but why not the oddments? Come on.
My guess is that it would have been cutting into the money side of things.
Well, maybe, but we give you lots of money.
Yeah, and there's somebody inside Jagex that's saying it's not enough. because this change was made, and then we go into another, promo that's based purely on cosmetics here. And I also do have to note, with some of the items that are out here, is that they look entirely different in the screenshots that Jagex have posted compared to the preview that you get in game. I don't know which one is glitched, whether it's the Treasure Hunter one or the one that you actually get. But yeah. So in any event,
luck? I said, so good luck that you get the one that you think.
Yeah, I think I'm going to bite the bullet after the show, actually, because I like the way the green looks on this Raziel one. So
green is your color.
It is. Like I've said before, I would love a green party hat, but that's a little bit out of my price range at the moment. So.
Green for the money.
Oh God. All right. So. I think we go on to the combat beta next with this then. Or no, not the combat beta. The surprise update of the week. The Necromancy XP embargo has been dropped.
It's been buried, Shane.
Dead and buried, you could say.
6 feet under.
Like okay, let's be 100% realistic here with this. I'm going to say something again that might offend some people with this. You ready for this?
Let's hear it.
The Necromancy XP embargo should have been dropped after the 200 mil front page race was done, for 2 reasons. One, the people, you need to be 100% honest, that the people racing for 200 mil after their front page really don't care whether or not they're on the front page, because they're never getting out on the front page. Secondly, that's when, after that 200 mil race, they completely changed the XP rates in the skill. And the people who raced and got 200 mil on the front page used it and got an entirely different XP rate and process involved in it than the rest of us did. And in my view, after that race was done and after those XP changes to rituals came in September, in my view, is when the embargo should have been dropped, because at that point it's not the same, race conditions as they were in that first week and a bit. So it's like, why even have the XP embargo? Because, we know that XP in this game is just so damn fast, and people are going to want to get to 120, and you should want people to get to 120 in your newest, fanciest toy. And for anybody who was actually racing and doing it, they probably would have had it, done in place by November. And, I'm not saying that necessarily they should have gone, and did it in September, because there was lots of other things going on in September, things that we, probably don't want to go back over. When those ritual XP changes came in. But, I feel like they could have just went 3 months instead of, the 5 and a bit that they did. They initially said it would have been 6, like when the grace period ended, but they came up a bit short on that. So I'm 100% behind this week. You?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like you said, long overdue, really. I mean, I might extend it a little bit further than you would. I might say the top 100. You know what I mean? Like, okay, once we know who the top 100 people are, that's the end of the competitive part. So the rest of it is, like I've always said, your game.
Yeah.
It does not matter at all what someone else is doing once you're past that. Where I would draw around probably that top 100 people, and then and you could even, I don't know, you can make an even bigger deal out of it than what we do now, the race and stuff. But when there was no reason to really have an embargo when people were getting the XP that they're getting on rituals.
Oh yeah.
They're getting 2 or 3 times more what you would get with combat. And so at that point,
right, the very fact it had to be nerfed, and then they did. Those guys got their XP rate. Then at that point, the rest of us have to suffer with, the XP rates that were there. Granted, yeah, they were still good, and it's still the main training method to go for. But I just felt like, at that point should have, lightened up a bit on the embargo stuff.
Yeah, I mean, embargo. It's not a. I just. It should serve a purpose, and someone's feelings being hurt because I had some bonus XP. That's not a good enough reason to me.
No. And yeah, and I've been going for this entire week. I've been putting all the XP I got on Treasure Hunter this week onto Necromancy, and I'm already up to 2.3 mil bonus XP on this here.
Damn. All right.
Yeah. And also reminder everybody that you can use your combat challenges on Necromancy now with this, your combat daily challenges. So you extend out your daily challenges. I'm at level 118, and each one, base one, gives me about 50,000 XP. So if I extend those out, I'd be getting about 300,000 Necromancy XP a day just from the daily challenges.
Yeah.
So there's that.
That's pretty good. And I mean, and honestly, like, if you want to do combat, right, like, you almost need the bonus XP to make it.
And hey, there's a double XP weekend coming up in, probably about a month or so, right? So that's going to be a 3x XP rate on rituals, which is going to be, astounding for people who haven't got 120 yet. I'll probably wind up getting 120 before based at the rate I'm going right now, but I know what I'm finishing up on double XP.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that'll be fun.
Yeah. What level are you right now?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I stopped after like around 99.
Oh, okay.
Might be 100, 101, something like that.
And see, that's something to look forward to there, because I know how fun it is to kind of, dive into that double XP mode. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. Also penguins. Our S tier Dailyscape challenge from our Dailyscape tier list. I had just been stacking up penguin points for who knows how long, just spotting them passively. And I traded in about 100 penguin points this afternoon, and I got 1.2 million Necromancy XP off that.
Yeah, that's really nice. Really nice XP.
So there's that. There's also, of course, the classic tiers of Gothics, which is weekly. It's not as good as Penguins in terms of XP, but it's definitely something that, we should all be going back to at this point in time. So.
No, you didn't see any animals out running around the zoo or anything when you turned them in?
No snakes.
Okay.
No snakes.
Okay,
no
snakes. Okay.
No. Nice call back to last week, though. But yeah, like, I feel like this has been a long time coming, and 6 months was going to be too long. 3 months was probably the sweet spot, though I do feel like, nobody would have complained if they would have did it after, the nerfs happened in mid-September there. So, but yeah. All right. Looking forward to that. And yeah, I might have, used some of my oddments this week to get some of those Raziel tokens and some extra XP stuff. So, I'm playing the game that is RS3, folks. I'm doing it the way our Jagex corporate overlords want me to.
Not really.
What do you mean, not really?
Well, you haven't opened up your wallet and given generously.
No, I haven't. I haven't done that. But I feel like I did enough of that by getting Premier Club on a second account this year.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's that.
I'm going to let mine run out and pretend like I didn't know that it was going to re-up when my wife asked.
Oh, God. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to take a moment and thank our Patreon supporters for this episode. The people who actually do pay RSBANDB updates bills with this. So this week I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Chilbura, Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Free Milk, Guy Lafleur, Jacob G., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jeebus, Jesse W., Keski, Lemon Lodge, Ling01, Luminos, Nate the Great, Pernasius, Renhawk, Ricky A, Rippeth, Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, The Naked Captain, The Dab and Goat, Tim, Tom V, Ukulele Steve, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. And you can join these guys for as little as $1 a month. And in doing so, you gain access to an entire back catalog of 65 plus bonus shows of RSBANDB Update right now. And the Patreon members are presently voting for what the February bonus show is going to be. There's 3 choices for that one. So we have the Value of Roadmaps, which is looking at, hey, should RS3 put out a roadmap quarterly or every half year like old school RuneScape does, given that old school recently had their Winter Summit? What would that do for RS3? Then we also have a discussion about why is farming a skill, talking about the ecosystems, why it's a skill, and why it went to 120 with Herblore, and then updates that RuneScape could use to bring players back, picking up on monthly bid 56 from last year, where we asked about whether Jagex's current strategy of capitalizing on veterans and new accounts was sustainable going forward. So 3 topics there that you can choose from, and you gain access to that and that entire back catalog of bonus shows for as little as $1 a month. You also get a mention in our show notes, the ability to attend roundtables, and you also get the satisfaction of helping fund the costs of RSBANDB Update. We also do have a VIP tier for $3 a month where you receive a special VIP rank on Discord, including chat channel access, a special mention on the podcast at the start of the month, and high-quality stereo versions of the show. And if you want to give the ultimate gift, $5 a month, you receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year, and that also gets you the RSBANDB Update Christmas card. Patreon.com/RSBANDB. Thanks so much, everybody. And if you do want to vote in that poll, you have 4 days left to sign up and vote.
Thanks.
All right. So, necromancy. That's been a topic of discussion in many circles. Many circles, including, the PVM circles about, hey, how should the combat system work compared to the other styles that are out there? And I feel like there's been lots of discussion about where necromancy has landed. Well, this week, today on Thursday, they announced the next steps for the combat beta. And this beta patch is being pitched as a release candidate. And what they mean by this is that if something goes wrong or they need to return to the drawing board, they will, and it will cook a little while longer. But the aim of the beta patch that is out now would be to refine the systems and clear out any standout issues. What this means, and this is exactly what Jagex wants people to do for this beta, it is paramount that we get all players of all playstyles and all skill levels trying it out to get the feel just right. When this launches into the live game, we want there to be minimal interruption to the average play session outside of improvements, so we ask anybody who can jump into the beta and try out some of your usual combat activities. If you're a PVM god and smash your way through bosses, or you just do your daily combat challenges, they want you to go into the beta and try out your usual combat scenarios, and then let them know how it plays and how the changes feel. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that we need to drive home with this, is that it's not just for people who do high-end PVMing that need to look at this. It's anybody who has some free time and does combat in RS should have a look at this, right?
Yes. Even me.
Even you.
Even me.
How'd the Slayer go?
I don't really think I'm gonna notice much of a difference. It took me. So here's a little fun fact, a little tip. If you have your Jagex launcher like that, so that it launches when you turn your computer on, you have to go to your task manager, close it out, the like 3 little processes, it says Jagex. Then you go to the website where you can click on Combat Beta, click here, and that normally will loads up the Jagex launcher and will dump you into beta. Well, that wasn't happening for me, so that's
because it was using the existing processes that were there,
Yeah.
and it needed a fresh one.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
So if
I
you
had
have it
I
set
had
like
that exact same problem too.
Okay.
Yeah, except I didn't actually need to go into Task Manager to kill them all. It was just enough to go into the little taskbar on the lower right in Windows and do it. So
Yeah, I don't know. I kept trying it and it wouldn't. But that's how I ended up getting it to work for
Right.
me. And then when I imported my save, didn't realize what my bank space situation was. And so I couldn't get a clean preset out, and so yeah, I had to, and you can't sell anything in the beta, right? So it's
Nope.
what am I gonna do?
And that's going to be another thing that I have to say in addition to what you said about launching it. It's that before you go in there for the first time, or be ready to wait an hour to import another save, is make sure you have enough potions, make sure you have enough god pages, make sure you have enough arrows and everything like that, because otherwise you're going to be Iron Manning it in the beta, because you can't just go to the Grand Exchange and buy it.
Yeah. So I basically did all of those steps again, went back into the main game, got me set up, and now I am ready to go as soon as it will let me import my next save.
Right. And that's the key thing, and those are the bumps in the road that are gonna inhibit the casual players from doing that, because betas need to be low friction, right? But not so low friction that everybody can go in there and get the best in slot gear, because that doesn't give us a representative picture, as we learned back in the EOC days.
Having it be your own, I think it's the
good.
best way of doing it. I mean,
and I would like there to be an easy way to resupply. Like if I have a stack of Dyne arrows in my game of one flavor or another, let me restock on those since I already have them. Let me restock on Jazz pages, on Wen pages, on Full pages, and all those sorts of things somewhere in the beta. I realize that's, beyond the scope of what's capable of these beta servers, but that's just something I think that would be nice and lower the friction, so that people don't need to worry about doing what you and I had to do in waiting an extra hour and a bit to actually get on. Because I had that exact same thing. I had no arrows and I had no Wen pages. So I needed to do it again.
Yep.
But so Slayer feels good, right?
It feels normal. Yeah, I really know. I mean, I'm really the wrong person to judge, but
they said they want everyone.
I know, but I just don't think that. I just didn't notice enough of a difference to be able to articulate, and maybe
that's a good thing.
Maybe that you notice it at the higher ends, I'm sure there's major differences. It's just I'm not good enough to be getting all of that benefit, right?
Right.
Yeah. Which is cool. That's fine. I'm a pacifist. What do you want from me? I mean,
also of note for this
start level 3
for this beta blog post, Mod Doom audio narrated all the changes. Spent 18.5 minutes doing that, and it's included in the post.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's good. I'm not going to go through all the changes because we've done that before on one episode or another, and there's tons of them in there.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say, and I think I'm starting to get a grasp of where things are at, I did my usual PVM stuff, which of course is Carapac, normal, hard, right? Mm-hmm. And I did a Reaper task, which was Vindicta. And on the Carapac side of things, this is hard to believe, but my ranged setup that I was using before Necromancy, which is a Serenic set, perked as you would expect it to be, like biting, all the usual, mid to upper tier perks, Saren Godbow, I'm not swapping. I don't have Bow of the Last Guardian, Dying Arrows, and whatnot. That setup at Karapak is coming within 10 to 15 seconds of my Necromancy times with my Necromancy Best in Slot gear. Yeah.
So that sounds to me like we might be finding an balance.
And I am also, and it wasn't just Karapak, it was also at Vindicta. Vindicta was a little bit closer. There was about 3 seconds different only there in that. So, and keep in mind, and this is the part where I will say that, somebody who is fully invested in one of the legacy combat styles like Magic, Ranged, or Melee, who has, the Bow of the Last Guardian setup, who has that tick perfect rotation down, who is willing to swap between arrows and do all sorts of things like Grimoires and do the smoke cloudy business and all that, that person is probably going to be able to reach what Necromancy can do in the combat beta. And, this is based off of what I assume I'm seeing based on what I have, in that I'm able to almost reach what I'm doing with Necromancy. It's not 100% the same. I'm doing a lot more in terms of managing adrenaline. I'm doing a lot more in terms of making sure the abilities land at the right times. It's not as fire and forget as Necromancy is, but it's getting close in terms of the damage that's out there for that. And that's ranged. And I'm not much of a Magic or Melee combat person when it comes to bossing, so I really haven't got around to testing those. But I can say that ranged actually feels really, really good with this, and I'd be interested to hear what people have to say who have that best in slot range setup and have taken it to some of their favorite bosses on the beta. Now, granted, it might be difficult, to try and get an AOD team going or getting a Virago duo set going, and you might just want to go do something solo out there. Granted, you can solo Virago. Now, you can solo Solak and all that, but I would be interested to hear from people about how things are going on that front. And we're going to try and look into that more for next week on the show, because, this beta came out only a few hours before we recorded here, so we really didn't have the amount of time to dive into this at a deep level and, find the people who have been doing that kind of PVM on it. But I do have to say I was shocked in terms of where my range setup came out to be on this. I was expecting it to be slower. And maybe I got better, or maybe it's just something that was there to begin with, and the people who were Necromancy naysayers were right, and that is it's about learning the combat system, and that's what, Necromancy kind of abstracts away with it. But it just felt better overall. So I think my favorite thing that I witnessed here, of course, was the crit changes and the hit changes. That those are like Necromancy now. And there's just tons of changes in there with ranged as well.
It does feel nice to not have the splashes and stuff.
Yeah. But I don't know. All I can say is that it was weird, because I was under the impression that I would never be doing those kind of numbers with one of those combat styles, and I needed Necromancy for that. But now, given the fact that I'm, close to touching where I'm at with Necromancy, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, that means it's doing as intended, right?
Yeah. And see, this is the interesting thing, and I think maybe after this beta goes live, we can kind of take stock of what happened here, right? Mm-hmm. And say, Necromancy was a new combat skill, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what it did as a whole for the game was usher in that next combat update that, you could call EOC 2.0, let's be honest at this point, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder what would have happened had the changes in this combat beta come out a year ago and then Necromancy come out in the summer as it did. What would the player response have been to Necromancy with that? Because the thing I'm trying to say...
Would have been
right.
I don't know.
Do you see the picture I'm trying to paint, though?
Yeah, people's perspective on Necromancy would have been...
The perspective on Necromancy is that it wouldn't necessarily have been this huge power step up from what it was.
Yeah, no.
Because if all the other styles come up to that level and you remove the jank that is in those systems and you make it so that it's easier to understand, that's a hole for everybody, and you do that without adding a combat style. And then we could have had a deeper discussion on, is Necromancy just purple magic?
Well, it really is purple magic at that point, because that's the one difference that, or it's a difference that made it stand out. So
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Because I feel like the identity of Necromancy is the conjures and the fact it's not about adrenaline. Which, if you look at magic, for example, magic is all about adrenaline.
I know people say that with Necromancy, but it's all about everything else.
What do you mean?
It's all about oath, it's all about the stacks, it's all about resources. So, I mean,
right.
it's just
Necrosis, souls,
adrenaline.
Adrenaline, yeah, okay. Yeah, but it comes down to being a matter of perspective, and whether or not the fact that things are looking better now for the three styles, if that paints Necromancy in a different picture, and if this will be enough for people who have, invested billions into, crit sticks and whatnot, if that'll be enough for them to continue using that on this end. And that's definitely something we also need to look at on here, because I would class my range setup as, a mid-level setup, and that it's not, best in slot. It doesn't have switches. It doesn't have a Bow of the Last Guardian. So what we do need to reach out and, get those Bow of the Last Guardians things and get the fractured staffs and get all those things in before this ends and see where everything lands on this. But the perspective from us as, severely normal people, and myself, somebody who's at the mid to high end range of the PVM perspective, is it feels good. And I think the fact you can also say that for Slayer is a good thing too. So
yeah, I mean, well, for what it's worth, total not combat guy, but yeah.
Which I don't think we would have said going into this. I think there was a good deal of skepticism on it too. So, but
yeah, I wonder, thinking like what you were saying before, I wonder if the point to have brought that in, I wonder if it would have been with the Def reworks. They did.
What do you mean?
Like bring in these changes.
Oh, if they would have came with the death rework instead.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, because when you factor in all those things, it really was EOC 2.0 over the span of a year and a bit, and this is the final chapter of it, when you think about it.
Hey, how to do EOC without losing half of your player base?
Well, the thing is, after Necromancy, some people did go to old school.
Oh, that wasn't... I don't think that had anything to do with Necromancy. It had to do with similar unfortunate timing, but I don't think it was Necromancy.
Oh, it's too bad that thing had to come out the month after Necromancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, that's why we feel the way we feel, and I bet a lot of people else out there already feel like that too. And that, it's like, okay, what's going on with RS3? Where is this game at? What are we doing for the new year, kind of thing? After the whole Hero Pass fiasco, let us know. Let us know, Jagex, please. We want to know. We want to know. But all right, achievements of the week. What do you got for us?
All right. Jade Core with 120 woodcutting on the 24th. Hephaestus 5 with 99 mining on the 23rd. Lampy with 99 attack on the 23rd. And 99 ranged on the 23rd.
Well done. Then we have Naranja with 99 Necromancy on the 22nd. Hephaestus 5 with 99 Prayer on the 21st. Arendelle 20 with 120 Agility on the 19th. Then on the 18th, we have Legion 1943 with 120 Attack and Nyard with 99 Thieving. Also, just a quick note before we move on to Tannis' Pick of the Week, that we have our Help Wanted forum at update.show/help. So if you want to appear on the podcast this year, you think you might have an interesting perspective to offer, visit update.show/help and fill it out. The most important fields, of course, being what your name is and why you should or why you think you want to appear on the podcast. And of course a contact too. That would be nice. But update.show/help. All right. Pick of the week. What do you got?
I have something that is absolutely hilarious, and everybody probably of a certain generation somewhere in my general vicinity will probably remember this, but there used to be a show called King of the Hill. This was actually a spinoff of Beavis and Butthead, believe it or not. But
that explains everything.
But King of the Hill is awesome. I mean, Hank Hill, he's a propane salesman, and he's got his buddy, Boomhauer and Dale, and I mean everyone knows King of the Hill apparently, except for Shane.
I had heard of it. It's just I'd never watched it because that's not my kind of show.
Oh, okay.
I'm aware of the memes.
Well, the memes are real because I found this. It has existed for a while, but if you aren't aware of it, let me help you. There is something called Hank Trill instead of Hank Hill. Hank Trill. Just search Hank Trill on YouTube. And Hank Trill has
we'll
a
also
couple.
Put a link in the show notes too.
Yeah, he's got a couple of mixtapes. A lot of good songs. And Hank Trill is AI generated Hank Hill, trapping. So the premise is, he closes up shop down in Arlington, Texas, and moves up to Detroit to the trap, starts selling drugs, selling propane. It's hilarious. I've been listening to it all week, and I'm just cracking up, dude. Especially if you know the show, right? Because he's he's there is a verse with Boomhauer in the song called Propane Money too. And it may be one of the funniest things it's definitely one of the funniest things I've heard this whole year. Like,
see, I would be okay with showing this off and providing a sample to the listeners, but the thing is, when it comes to AI generated content like this, sometimes it can be really close in terms of inflection and the way it sounds to the actual content that you don't necessarily want to risk, having your podcast taken down on or muted on YouTube for doing that. So that's why I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
just because of how they can pop like that, right?
Yeah, and I always hesitate to do a music pick, but this is so unique and funny that it's worth, clicking on Shane's gonna link it in the notes, or just searching in YouTube. Hank Trill, Dale Drizzle, and Metro Boomhauer. It's the
Does it how does it compare to the presidents?
I think it's funnier, but it's pretty good. Yeah, I mean it's pretty accurate. I mean, you just gotta picture Hank Hill rapping. It's so absurd.
Oh God.
Like, it's just, the premise is just absurd, and then if you actually listen to the words, it's actually pretty good bars. And then that cracks you up even more.
So is it AI generated in terms of the content, or is it just the voice that's AI generated?
The voice, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so somebody actually wrote the content then.
There's no way an AI could write that good of rap lyrics.
I mean,
way.
You never know, right?
But it's so on brand, and there's Easter eggs, and I don't think so.
All right, fair enough.
I think it's just the voices. Yeah.
All right. YouTube, the link is up on the show. It's a YouTube video at update.show. Right on. So this week on RS, Combat Beta on RS3, and as I mentioned on last week's show, I continued my foray into into the general high-end PVM stuff. I know I said I was going to try Reaction, but I just settled for more Raziel and hard mode care pack, and the golden horseshoe of loot for me in 2024 has not yet appeared. That's all I'll say on that. I'm going to stop complaining about it before it gets any worse. But it hey, what are you laughing about?
I just the cojones on this guy to even mention his RNG. He's on a dry spell. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, normally it was like normally at least one drop a week when I was doing it daily. Sometimes more, and it's gone.
Oh,
it's gone.
Now you're back like a normal person, huh?
But it's interesting how just with having a buff like extra healing or the 2 hours of safe deaths, it kind of just gets you in a mode to realize what you're capable of with necromancy, and that's the thing I think we need to dive into more, especially with the beta stuff being active, is realizing how this is landing for everybody, and knowing that necromancy's story, and this is something I hear, I hear at least one story a week from the listeners out there about how necromancy has enabled somebody who listens to this show to go from, just doing basic PVM stuff all the way up to, completing Reaper and doing some of the hardest bosses in game. That's what necromancy enables. And for me, I've been fortunate enough that it just lets me get into a groove of where I'm able to, do the bosses that I want to do, and, do them with relative actual ease on that. So I've actually really been enjoying RS3 PVM. I do have to say that much. But on the old school side, PVM over there too. And a reason I mention this is because we're going to be having a good discussion this weekend on the old school show, update.show/OS, about their new update, Scurrius the Rat King, which is an introductory level PVM boss over there that teaches what could be referred to as the basics of old school PVM, which is, of course, tracking movements, moving around a boss, and prayer switching. And the idea behind this boss is that they aim for people who are able to kill it effectively, for it to be a good source of combat XP, and for people who are first getting into PVM, a good way to learn some of those basic mechanics out there. And, it really does tick the boxes on all those things with that. So, just been really a full interesting week of PVM on all that, and I never really thought that I'd say this, that I'm enjoying PVM in both incarnations of RuneScape this week. So that's what I've been up to.
Wow. Well, look at you, Shane. Look at how you've grown.
I don't know if that was supposed to sound patronizing or not.
No, you've actually grown a lot more than anyone else when it comes to PVM.
I don't think so, though. That's the thing.
You weren't doing any of this stuff, like, not all that long ago. Like, I remember the round table you did at Raxer. It wasn't that
That was
long
a joke.
Ago. Yeah.
That was a joke, and that was like the week and a bit before Carapac came out, and then after that, I went to Carapac on launch day, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's the best thing. You make it sound patronizing, but it's actually true.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And, you know, I also do have to say that I did look into and watch parts of the old school Winter Summit, and they'd certainly have a very interesting way of presenting things over there as well. We talked about that on last week's old school show, so if you want to hear our thoughts on the Winter Summit, you can go there for that. And, you know, it goes without saying that the thing we were least surprised about, or sorry, least enthused about, was sailing. So we're actually looking for somebody at some point maybe who's actually really enthused about sailing to come on the show. So if that's you, let us know. But they're also getting Well Gothic Sleeps and Defender of Rock, potentially, assuming they both pass the poll.
I didn't know they. I guess I didn't realize they didn't have Defender of Rock.
Nope. It was one of the quests to come out shortly after the save that they brought over. So that and Well Gothic Sleeps and an entire new continent launching in March too of new skilling content and questing and all sorts of things like that. So it's almost as though you know, you remember back in the day, folks were always asking for the new RS3 continent that really never came.
Mm-hmm.
It's here on Old School.
Oh,
that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. What have you been doing?
Our island has dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So a while back, I can't even remember why, but we had to check out the accidental fire making and fletching thing, and I've been literally fletching ever since.
Because they changed it to make it so that you get arrows and whatnot faster.
Yeah.
And better fire making XP.
Yep, and I was still doing that. I did get a little bit bored, and I did play a little bit of OS this week too. But now I have everything set for my save, and I'm gonna, I don't know, might go see if I can take the spider. One of these days, power creep will get me over the hump, and I'll kill that damn thing.
Yeah. Do you have your Zuck cape?
No.
Okay, that might make things a little bit more difficult then. Because last time I went to the spider, I was able to get through phase 1 with 1 Death Skulls and 1 Finger of Death.
Not that great. I don't produce a ton of damage with necromancy. Like, it's not really any different than magic for me.
And that's interesting. It's interesting you say that, and I'm wondering if we need to, have a look and see what's missing, or if there's something that's not being activated for that. Like, do you auto-activate your skeleton's your skeleton's command ability?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a big one. And you're making sure that your conjures are always up, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're early on the rotation, so any time they need to come up, they'll come up.
Huh. Yeah, we should have a look at that, because Death Skulls having that as an ultimate that has reduced adrenaline is wonderful, but it's not the be all and end all of the rotation. There's still things you can do without that. So it's definitely something we should sit down and look at some point. So, but
All right.
yeah, are you hoping that after you go to Spider, it'll be like it was for me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I ain't probably gonna be doing no Carapac, but I've been after the Spider for years, and I ain't ever really been close.
Yeah, and see, even with Necromancy, it can become kind of interesting, the Spider, because I find that if you go on days where the rotation isn't necessarily the best in terms of what paths are open, it can make things difficult. And if you kill it more than a few times, its total enrage level goes up, which is something you can mitigate by uncorking the pheromones, but it's not something that is going to happen automatically. So,
Right.
But yeah, that's all things we can look into. I don't think there's anything else for the podcast. Anything else you've been doing this week you want to mention, or are we good?
No, I think that's really all I've been doing.
Alrighty then. Well, reminder, of course, to fill out our survey at update.show/survey. It would mean the world to us if you did. It'll help us determine where we go with the show this year. 3 participants who fill out the survey will win a bond. So please do fill it out, update.show/survey. And if you want the podcast delivered automatically to you, the best way to do that is to subscribe. And we're on all the podcast listeners out there. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Pocket Casts, Amazon, and more. Just visit update.show/subscribe. And of course, we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANDB. That's where we post the video versions of the shows. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the show. And with that, of course, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.